Good afternoon. Today we have 3 candidates for the Division IV judgeships in the 2nd Judicial District, which covers Clay, Craighead, Crittenden, Greene, Mississippi, and Poinsett counties. I will first introduce the candidates very briefly to allow them as much time as possible. Doug Brimhall of Jonesboro is the incumbent judge, having been elected in 2024, sitting here in the middle. Curtis Hitt of Paragould, at my far left, is Greene County District Judge, and Andrew Nadsum of Jonesboro is Deputy Prosecuting Attorney for Craighead County. Prior to the start of this program, the candidates were asked to draw numbers to determine the order of speaking. Mr. Nadsum will go first, Mr. Brimhall will go second, and Mr. Hitt will go third. We'll alternate first, who goes first for each statement or response following the same order. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for an opening statement and 2 minutes for a closing statement. They may come to the podium for these statements if they choose. Roy will be keeping time over here, gentlemen, and he will raise his hand when there's 30 seconds left for your statement. We do ask that you hold your applause until the end. Because of our time constraints, we need to be able to get through as many as possible. In between, we will ask questions and we'll alternate again as to who answers first for each one. Candidates should stay seated for this portion of the program and pass the microphone as needed. So they'll come up to introduce themselves, they'll come up to close, but as far as in the statements, you'll sit down. Each candidate will have, again, 2 minutes per question. There will be no rebuttal. So if a candidate wants to make a rebuttal to a question, they will have to do that as part of the response to the next question or in the closing. I will ask the first question. After that, we'll follow the club policy for political forums, which is we give priority to Kiwanis members to ask questions. If time permits, we will then go to media representatives to ask questions. The candidates may want to make themselves available for additional questions after we end the meeting as close to 1 o'clock as possible. I know a couple of you need to be someplace. The questions will not be allowed from anyone other than Kiwanis members and media representatives. Again, Roy Orkert will be keeping time and helping me get the order of speaking right, and the candidates should be able to see the screen. Roy will also hold up at certain intervals. When time is up, the car horn will sound. So now for the opening statements, and we'll begin with Mr. Nadsum.
Good afternoon. I'm Andrew Nadsum, and I'm running for Circuit Judge. I'm married to Dr. Jessica Enderlin Nadsum, and we have 2 young boys. Dr. Nadsum has an education consulting business and is also a former teacher at Jonesboro High School. She's a member of Junior Auxiliary and a CASA volunteer. We also attend church at the Jonesboro Community of Christ. I've spent my whole adult career performing public service in Northeast Arkansas, first as a private practice attorney, and later as a public defender, and now as a deputy prosecuting attorney. As deputy prosecuting attorney, I've prosecuted serious felonies and helped keep our community safe. In private practice, I handle family law, custody, guardianships, and divorces, and I see every day the impact that circuit judges have on the children of our community. I graduated 5th in my class from law school. I was an assistant editor of the Law Review and graduated with over 300 hours of public service. I'm a former president of the Craighead County Bar Association. I'm a current board member of the Craighead County Law Library. I'm a past member of the Keep Jonesboro Beautiful Commission, and I'm a proud longtime member of this Jonesboro Kiwanis Club. I am running on my record of experience, integrity, and public service. But I'm also running to restore public trust to the judiciary, especially Division IV. It is clear based on my conversations with voters that the public has lost public trust with Division IV based on the incumbents' actions and decisions. We deserve circuit judges who lead with strong leadership, ethics, and integrity. I believe we deserve a circuit judge who is a servant leader with experience and integrity. And I believe I'm the best candidate for this position. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Fremont.
Good afternoon. I'm Circuit Judge Douglas Brimhall. I recognize many of you in here. Many of you have seen me grow up since I was a little kid. Some of you I haven't met yet, or I've met along the way. But I'm thankful that Kiwanis has had me come today to speak to you as the incumbent judge. I'm born and raised in Jonesboro, Arkansas. In fact, not only a block from here, where the McDonald's is, my grandmother built the first house on Stadium. My family is from here. There are deep roots to this community. I am passionate about this community. I can go on and on about why I moved back to Jonesboro after I graduated law school, because Jonesboro is where I wanted to raise my family. I'm married to Brittany. We've been married over 7.5 years. She is a wonderful wife. We have 4 daughters. We are a blended family. We don't use the term stepchild in our house. All children in our household are my daughters. I had a law practice for 14 years. I worked for DHS representing parents that had their children taken away. I was a part-time prosecutor. I am very passionate about public service. But about 8 years ago, I got a calling. And it was a calling, do more, do more. Being a judge, I can do more. And yes, Mr. Nadston brought up an issue that happened in May of 24, and it's a very touching issue. But I task him to find any ruling or anything I've done since taking the bench, because I've done nothing but serve with integrity and honesty and fair decisions. I take everything that comes before me, right, wrong, or indifferent. I apply it to the law, and I make my decision. And I stand behind my decision. I ask for your vote. Thank you for your time.
Mr. Hitt.
Well, we don't think there's much to say about ourselves until we only have 2 minutes to say it. My name is Curtis Hitt, and I appreciate the opportunity to visit with you today about my candidacy for the office of Circuit Judge. I'm currently serving by appointment of Governor Sanders as the District Court Judge for the 17th Judicial District, which is Greene and Clay counties. Up until that point, I was in my 29th year of law practice. So my campaign is premised on integrity and experience as well. Not only experience by terms of years, but by all the cases that I've handled during that time. I'm married to my wife, Shauna. We've been married for going on 27 years. We have 2 children. Our son, Cruz, who's with us today, is 24. He's married to Emily Grace Calhoun. They're newlyweds still, and we're very proud of both of them. We're also very proud of our daughter, Gabriella, who's a freshman at Greene County Tech Junior High School in Paragould, where we live. We've been members of Grace Baptist Church for 25 or so years, where I serve as an elder in our church family. During my tenure as an attorney, I practiced first as a deputy prosecutor. I did that for 7.5 years, and that's why I went to law school. I wanted to wear the white hat and call people to justice for committing crimes against our communities. I was privileged to do that for a number of years. I handled thousands of cases. I prosecuted half a dozen homicide cases, lots of child molesters, helped with law enforcement secure a number of life sentences against those offenders. And then I went into private practice, and I had Hitt Law Firm, a small business owner, for 20 years. And in that capacity, I handled about everything that could possibly come in front of a circuit judge. I hold myself out as a candidate in good faith, qualified by experience, not just years, but by the experiences that I've had representing clients and prosecuting on behalf of our community. And I too am asking for your support. Thank you again for having me.
Thank you for your introductions, gentlemen. Respect for the rule of law rests on its equal application. Yet nationally, we have seen threats to judicial independence through claims of political bias, impeachment threats, even defiance of lawfully entered judgments. In 2007, Supreme Court Justice Anthony Kennedy said, "Judicial independence is not conferred upon so judges can do as they please. Judicial independence is conferred so judges can do as they must." In 2024, the International Academy of Trial Lawyers stated, "The law does not protect itself. It survives because those sworn to uphold it have the courage to do so." What in your background indicates the fairness and courage to do as you must when upholding the law, regardless of your personal convictions?
Is this good? You said talk straight into the mic.
Yes,
Can everyone hear me? Being a circuit judge for the past year, prior to taking the bench, I was told that being a circuit judge is one of the loneliest positions you could ever have. A very thankless job and a very scrutinized job. Sitting on the bench and making decisions, you have to shut out everything, your beliefs, and take what is presented to you to the law. You can't wonder what somebody is going to write about you in the public, put on social media, what they're going to say if you happen to go to Walmart and they see you somewhere. If you held that fear over you, you would never make a just, lawful, righteous decision. So it is thankless and it is lonely at times. But doing this for over a year, I told somebody the other day, I told them that as an attorney, when you would try a case, you'd put your time, your efforts, and you would just spend countless hours. Whether you lost the case or won the case, there was always that thing in the back of your head, what could I have done better? What did I miss? Since taking the bench January 1st of 2025, I have not laid down one night and questioned a decision I've made. I've not lost sleep over it. I've sat there and felt that every decision I made is well-founded in the law and it was the right decision. So while some people, and there may be an assumption that judges may make rulings based on personal agendas or their bias, when people come before me in court, they know they're getting a fair hearing, they're being heard, and that the judge is making the right decision. Thank you.
Having practiced for the better part of 30 years, I've appeared in front of innumerable judges. And I've appeared from both sides of the courtroom. And I've appeared in front of probably upwards of 60 juries. Those juries are comprised of individual members of our community. And you always go into those kinds of forums knowing that you can't make everybody happy, you can't please everyone. So you have to very quickly learn what your own convictions are, and you also have to know who you are and where you stand. And you have to have a good conscience, and you do have to lie down at night and hope to sleep. And so all you can really be is yourself. Judge Tom Keith was on the bench when I first started, and he recognized how wet behind the ears I was and how I was trying to figure out who I was. And I think subconsciously I was sort of emulating another prosecutor whom I admired. And after court one day he said, you know, you can really only be yourself. And he was absolutely right, and I've learned that. And I've only been on the bench for a couple of weeks, but it's been a fast and furious baptism by fire. And I've had numerous people come in front of me, and you have to have the kind of temperament that can adjust from one person to the next. And although you don't have the pressure of satisfying clients or meeting their concerns, you do have the pressure of getting it right. You want to be fair and honest to your convictions while even-handedly applying the law. And I found that that comes naturally to me, and I'm encouraged by that. Early in my prosecutor experience, I remember someone pleading guilty, and then we went into a sentencing hearing, and through the sentencing hearing, I thought, this guy might not be guilty. And so I wasn't looking to notch something on my prosecutor belt. I told the judge, I think he might be innocent. I think you should take that into consideration. So we have to remember it's not about us. It's about being fair to those who come before us and honoring the Constitution. Thank you.
I think step one in honoring the rule of the law is to follow the law. And over the course of my career and my life, I've tried to the best of my ability to do that. I think both as a defense attorney and then as a deputy prosecutor, I've seen both sides, and I've seen cases and won jury trials as a defense attorney and as a deputy prosecutor while following the law. As a deputy prosecutor, sometimes you have to make a hard decision and null pros a case because you don't have the facts to get a conviction. Our oath is to seek justice. And I don't think that letting one's personal interest or anything of that nature interfere should come into consideration. And so over the course of my career, and I think frankly that's a large reason why my colleagues voted me president of the Craighead County Bar Association. They respect my temperament, my level-headedness, my intelligence. I was elected Craighead County Bar President at a young age. There were many older attorneys who had not been elected to that position, and I took that seriously in the rule of the law, and we won an award for the best bar association in the state that year. And so through my personal action, how I live my life, how I treat my family, I have followed the law, and I don't believe personal beliefs or whether I believe a law is written correctly or not. That's the legislature's prerogative and area of concern. And whether I disagree with the law, a judge is bound to apply the law and the facts and to reach a decision. And if you're doing that as a judge or as a prosecutor, sometimes you're probably going to reach a conclusion that you don't agree with. But you don't want to invade the province of the legislature and put your personal feelings, and so you have to make the tough call and say, hey, I don't like this result, but at the end of the day, I'm bound by the separation of powers and just follow the legislature and the letter of the law. Thank you.
Pass it down. We'll open it up to members. Questions? Yes, sir. Mr. Trump.
I'd like to state an opinion and ask you to agree or disagree or decline to answer, I guess, what the case may be. This is a nonpartisan position, as are all judicial races in Arkansas. In the past few years, though, I've seen the judicial races become more partisan, with people who are operatives in one party or another attending races that attending events that were partisan and being involved to some extent. Do you agree with that or disagree? And how would you deal with the nonpartisan aspect? And we're starting with Curtis.
Now, what was your opinion? I didn't.
That's my opinion. Yes.
That it should be nonpartisan?
No, my opinion is that it has become partisan.
Yes.
When it's
Okay.
supposed to be nonpartisan.
Well, I think as a factual matter, I think that you can look at the situation and see that partisan politics do play a role. I think that judicial races should be nonpartisan. I think that prosecutor races should be nonpartisan. I thought that before prosecutor races became nonpartisan, and I expressed as much. I think it should be nonpartisan because, we're duty bound to follow the law, to honor the Constitution, and to apply the law even-handedly. But I do recognize that politics invariably enter the equation. We're elected. In the federal system, judges are appointed. In the state system, we're elected. And we recognize that there are people who have interests in these elections, and they invariably will try to invade the province of the electoral process, and they want their candidates to be elected. Ideally, a candidate's personal politics won't enter the equation, and I think we have to be committed to that. But if we're all being real, we recognize that our worldview does inform the way we see the law. And so, I think it's fair for people to express their opinions as maybe related to politics to this end. I'm a strict constitutionalist. I'm a contextualist. I do not believe that the Constitution is a living, breathing, evolving thing. I think that we should follow the letter of the law as it's written. It's black and white, and we should apply it just as it's written. So I agree with you that politics does enter the equation, but I believe that it shouldn't. So ideally, it should be kept nonpartisan.
I agree that I believe that judicial elections should be nonpartisan. I believe we live in a very partisanship-heavy time, and I don't believe that's good for our country. I'm glad that the judicial races are nonpartisan. A lot of voters are not glad, by the way. As we were gathering signatures to have my name placed on the ballot by petition, you wouldn't believe, or maybe you probably would, the number of people said Democrat or Republican, Republican or Democrat. And when I or my volunteers would have to explain it's a nonpartisan election, ethically, it's nonpartisan. I can't answer one way or the other. We lost many signatures because of that. For following the ethical rules, which ties into the first question about following the rule of the law, I wasn't willing to compromise my integrity, my morals, or the ethical rules just to gain a few more signatures. Now, I'm very proud. We got over 2,900 signatures, and I'm the only candidate up here who the people of the 2nd Judicial District backed enough to get up here without paying the filing fee. We collected 2,900 thanks to a lot of volunteers. A lot of people in this room helped out with that process. But as far as partisanship, I don't believe judicial elections should be factored. Curtis is right. Inevitably, in our hyper-partisan world, you're going to run across it just like we did in the signature gathering process. You just have to block out what one faction or one side may want as far as a result and apply the facts and the law to whatever you believe the correct result is and not let partisanship factor into it. Thank you.
So I'll agree on what both candidates stated about it shouldn't be a factor. I agree 100%. Mr. Nassam was correct. When you're out campaigning, you do get the question time and time and time again, and it becomes very redundant. However, it also helps campaigning as a judge because you can say, the rules of ethics prevent us from discussing them. But it's a great rule, and I think last time I checked, Arkansas is one of 17 or 18 states that is still nonpartisan for judicial elections. But it's a great thing because even as an attorney trying cases, and we have 12 judges in our district, and I've practiced all across the state and been in front of countless judges. After you are in front of a judge enough, you learn what they believe in. You can tell what their kind of personal policy is. And as an attorney, when you could set cases, there were certain judges you would set certain cases in front of. And there were certain cases you would not set in front of certain judges because you knew that their personal opinion, policy, politics, whatever, was not going to benefit your case. That was just trial strategy. Now, moving forward to this aspect, I hope nobody knows what side of the line I fall on. I don't want people to know or what my personal opinion is. They shouldn't know. Now, if they do, maybe in my past they figured it out or something. But when a party or an attorney comes before me in court, I don't want them having any inclination or any feeling as to, well, Judge Brimhall, this happened or this is how he feels. I want everyone that comes before me to feel, hey, Judge Brimhall, he's fair, and he applied the facts to the law.
Members, questions? Going once. Twice. Yes, sir.
This may be a really amateurish question, but one gets the idea, the impression, up and down through the judicial system that there has tended to be a backlog, an inadequate number perhaps of judges and or staff. Is that the case with this office, or has it been, or how do you deal with it when the case count gets seemingly above what you can handle?
So that's a great question. The 2nd Judicial District is comprised of 6 counties. Judge Melissa Richardson says it's larger than the state of Rhode Island. We are kind of its own unique animal that's kind of been Frankenstein together, as other judges have said. And so we're also up in Northeast Arkansas, and Little Rock doesn't pay a whole lot of attention up here. Little Rock determines the number of circuit judges, and as always, taxpayer dollars are limited, and we all want to be good stewards of the taxpayer dollars. And so, frankly, the 2nd Judicial District, whether attorneys or judges, we just work a little bit harder because we don't have all the resources that it takes to have efficiency. And so I think whether defense side, prosecutor side, or the judicial side, I mean, we've all sat in court when there's been hundreds and hundreds of cases and too few hands, and you're there past 5 o'clock, whatever it takes to get done. And so I definitely think there is a shortage of judges population, but that's set from Little Rock, and as always, every part of the state is fighting to get more funding, and there's a limited pool because of the taxpayer resources. So
Great question. As the only candidate up here that can accurately discuss the issue because I've dealt with it, taking the bench, I realized there was a backlog. Practicing, I knew there was a backlog. When justice needs to be had quickly, and it would be 8 months, 12 months before you could get to court, that is a problem. I pride myself in setting cases quickly, making decisions quickly. I checked just this morning, I had 108% clearance rate, meaning for every case that came in, 108% was going out. So a little over 1%, so one in, one out. Prior to me taking the bench, huge backlog. I found cases from the early 90s that have not been closed out. I average right at, I think the last count was right at 2,000 cases, and that seems like a lot, and it is a lot. I don't think we have a shortage of judges. The new annex that was built in Craighead County, it has provided a relief outlet. If you have 12 judges and you need one courtroom and 3 judges need a courtroom, you can't try those cases. So the new annex that has been built has relieved pressure and has helped tremendously for setting cases and disposing of cases. So I try to get opinions out, I try to schedule cases quickly, and I try to reduce those old cases that have been pending on the docket for years.
I started practicing in 1997 as a prosecutor, and when I came to Greene County in 1998, I was handling 3 different courtrooms: juvenile court, district court, circuit court. And when I handled circuit court, I had 2 assistants, and I was the only attorney, pretty much, responsible for the day-to-day. That office now has 3 prosecutors and 4 or 5 staff members, I believe. The resources have improved. There is a question of courtroom space, and that's remedied to some extent from one county to the next. But we now have more circuit judges than we've ever had. We have 12 circuit judges. We have 9 courthouses in 6 counties. And so we are doing pretty well, actually. I think the distribution is about 1,680 cases per judge. That's the average. Sounds like a lot, and it is. But frankly, it's just a question of work ethic, if I may say so. And I don't mean necessarily just the judges, although the judges certainly, but also the prosecutors and the defense bar and the private lawyers as well. We have more cases that are resolved now by mediation or arbitration than ever before. I remember as a young prosecutor, I had 14 jury trials in 1 year, which was a lot. It was exhausting. For the most part, you probably won't see more than 4 jury trials per year in any one county. Judges can do so much to move cases along. And to some extent they should, but there's another pushback idea. The idea too is that, well, you're a referee. And really the parties of interest have the most information about the cases. The lawyers who are involved should be allowed to go at their own pace to some extent.
Time for one more question from members. Yes, Richard.
We could argue this question.
Can you stand up, please? Stand up so we can hear you.
Can't hear me? The federal court system is in disarray. Let me just suggest that's my opinion. You have yours, maybe. In particular, we could focus on the district courts, the trial courts, and the federal system, and we see that the respect for decisions made by a court, by a trial in a trial court environment, right, where the judges know the issues before them are being routinely ignored in the federal system by appeals court and the Supreme Court as well. Do you see as potential trial court judges in the state of Arkansas. Do you see that disarray, assume for a minute that it is, that disarray, that disrespect for trial court decisions trickling down in the state of Arkansas over time?
So I'll start.
What? You got it?
Somewhat.
Reach, yes, reach.
So as I see it, do I see issues?
It's called judicial federalism.
Okay.
In the textbooks.
Well, I cannot speak to that, but as to disarray in trial court, state trial court in Arkansas, which is where I sit, I don't see disarray with decisions. Now, you're not going to make everyone happy. I think Mr. Hitt said it. Decisions you make there are winners and losers in a case. You can't give to both sides. I mean, essentially, you can follow the law, and if it helps both sides, great. But I was told when I first started practicing law, if both parties walk out of that courtroom and they're both upset, well, that judge did a pretty good job. And I'm not saying both parties walk out of my courtroom upset, but would I say that there's been disarray that I've seen? I've not seen disarray at this level. So I can't really speak to that. I try to not get involved in federal issues and the federal judicial branch. I don't have time, quite frankly. I sit there, I hear cases. When I was practicing law, I would get frustrated at times as to, well, why is it taking 3, 4, 5 months for me to get an opinion from a judge? Now, being a judge, I understand that. Now, I don't wait that long for opinions, but I can see how when you're in court 5 days a week, you're hearing those cases. There's only so many hours in a day in a week that you can sit in that office or at home and write an opinion. So the time aspect is what is a struggle at times to manage all that when there's such a busy case docket.
The short answer is no. I don't think that we see disarray or disrespect on the whole in our state trial courts. Of course, that is primarily in the context of the Second Judicial Circuit, and that's a credit to our bench. We have a host of good judges for the most part, and I think they do a fine job of decorum in the courtroom. I remember when I was a very young attorney practicing in front of Judge John Fogelman from Crittenden County, who was one of my favorite circuit judges. He let it be known early on that he expected professionalism in the courtroom. He was particular about courtroom procedure, and he said that he held such a high standard because he wanted the public, as they come into the courtroom and had an encounter with the court system, to respect the law and to respect the system. And he had a very good point, and I appreciated that, and it's had an effect on me for all of my career. I think it is incumbent upon our bench to practice in such a way as to hold a high standard personally as well as publicly, and to practice in such a way and to ensure that the practice before the bench is conducted in such a way that people have a respect for the law. There is a top-down effect, and when our bench, or for that matter our bar, is behaving or practicing in such a way that it undermines the confidence in the public or in the system by the public, I think that is a problem. So for the most part, I don't think that we have a problem. I think that by and large, people still respect the law and still respect the system and respect our bench. And I'm thankful for that. I think that's the grace of God that we see that respect, at least as much of it as we see at this point.
Well, Richard, pretty good question from you, shorter than usual. So this whole race is about disarray, to be frank, and about the elephant in the room. I mean, we have an incumbent who was charged with a felony against a minor, pled guilty to a misdemeanor against a minor, and DHS has ordered to be placed on the child maltreatment registry. To my knowledge, that series of facts has never happened in the 2nd Judicial District before. And so when we talk about disarray, Doug has appealed DHS's decision to place him on the child maltreatment registry. He now cannot hear DHS cases which were on his docket. So other judges had to be reassigned those cases using taxpayer resources, causing inconvenience to attorneys, judges, court staff, etc., based on his decision. And if you talk to those people who were involved in that, it created quite a bit of disarray. And so we have an incumbent who chose not to follow the rule of the law. I think that's disarray the way my parents raised me. We have an incumbent who's been ordered to be placed on the child maltreatment registry. That seems like disarray to me. You can't even work in a school as a janitor if you're on the child maltreatment registry. And this individual is now deciding custody, guardianship, family law, adoptions for other children in our community, our club, helping the children of the world. And he's affecting hundreds, if not thousands of lives of our children in our community that we fundraise for, that we do service projects for, that I've been a member of this club for over a decade. So yes, Richard, I think we do have disarray in Division 4. And that's why I'm asking for your vote.
Gentlemen, we will now turn to final statements. We will begin with Mr. Hitt.
Well, thank you again for having us. I appreciate the opportunity to be with you and to talk to you about my candidacy. I came to talk about my candidacy. And I understand, as Mr. Nadsum says, there are certain issues that are pertinent to this election, and I don't disagree with him necessarily, but at the same time, I'm here to talk about my candidacy, and it's built on my experience. There's no other candidate in this room who has half as much experience as I have in terms of years, or I would say in terms of work. I've just handled so many cases over the years, not only in private practice, where I've represented literally thousands of clients, but I've also prosecuted hundreds of cases. I've been in front of numerous judges where I've prosecuted hundreds of bench trials, dozens and dozens and dozens of jury trials, and I'm proud of that experience. And, I'm almost 55 years old. Well, let's not rush it. I'm several months from 55. I turned 55 this year. My wife says we're getting old, and I tell her we'll be old when we get old. We're not old yet. We are getting there, but we're not old yet. And with that has come a lot of experience that has lent itself to someone I think is well qualified for this position. I'm now appearing in front of judges who are younger than I, and I would never suggest that even as a judge that I'm the smartest guy in the room necessarily. And we should never presume that we are. We should always be careful to listen to the parties, listen to the respective arguments. I don't like splitting the baby. If one side is right, then grant the favor and grant the judgment in favor of the party that's right. But at the same time, there's something to be said for being fair and equitable, and I feel like I'm well positioned to do just that. I hope I have the opportunity to serve you in this capacity. Thank you again for having me.
Mr. Nadsum?
Oh, no.
Oh.
No, it's, yeah, I thought it was.
My bad. Thank you.
Thank you for having me today. I live by a motto: one should not be judged by their darkest day, but by their service and growth thereafter. I pray that Mr. Nadsum does not go through what I experienced May of 2024. That was a terrible, heartbreaking situation that my family is still healing from. However, Mr. Nadsum is sitting there and he's casting doubt and blame upon me. But he doesn't know what happened. All he knows is what's happened in the media, what has been portrayed. I believe in a legal system. That's why I pled guilty to a harassment charge. Not that I abused my daughter. Mr. Nadsum sitting there and he's talking about the elephant in the room and he's pointing fingers at me. However, as a prosecutor, he pleads aggravated assault cases out to first offender status, meaning they can have probation for 3 years and then the case is dismissed. That happened last month. But he wants to sit up here and throw stones at me Mr. Nansen, I pray you never experience what my family went through. As a judge, I know what life is about. I've lived it, I've learned it, and I've moved forward. And so has my family. It has made me a better judge. And while I don't look at what's in the news or social media, I only look at what comes before me in making a fair and just decision. And since taking the bench, I got sworn in, or since the elephant in the room, I became a judge. I got sworn in January 1st of 2025, and I'm still on the bench today, doing the right thing and making the right decisions. I ask for your support come March 3rd. Thank you.
I am running on my record and my character and my integrity. I always thought I might run for circuit judge one day, but I had no intention of running until Doug pled guilty and said he was going to take the bench. I have a 2.5-year-old kid, a 9-month-old. This is taking time away from my family, but I think it is important for the children. And Doug mentioned don't judge somebody for their darkest day. This isn't Doug's first run-in with the law. He had an arrest warrant issued in 2012 for public intoxication with similar facts to this case. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. Words are cheap. Actions are not. You all know me. This community knows me. We've volunteered together. We've helped kids together. And I've been raised by my parents to do the right thing, to obey the letter of the law, and to be a good family man. And ladies and gentlemen, yes, I plead people to first offender status. It's a great tool. If a candidate qualifies and we can get them, they go 3 years with keeping their nose clean, pay their debt to society, and finish. Yeah, the legislature says first offender should be available. Why in the world would I stick somebody who doesn't deserve it with a felony when they can become a productive tax-paying member of this society? No, I don't judge people by their worst days. If somebody commits aggravated assault, they should be held accountable. But if they pay their debt to society, they need to be given the option of returning to the community and not being a burden on the community. Why would I send somebody to ADC over and over again so your taxpayer dollars can pay for it? I'm proud to use first offender. I'm also proud to aggressively prosecute and sentence those who commit violent crimes to the Arkansas Department of Corrections. Ladies and gentlemen, we need a candidate with character and experience, and I'm respectfully asking for your vote. Thank you.
At this time, please give a round of applause for all of the candidates. We do thank you for taking your time to come up here and letting us know more.
Thank you.
Thank you also for the audience and your respect for the proceedings. I don't know how many of the candidates actually have time before they have to get on to something else, but if they do have time, they will be around to answer questions. Otherwise, I'll turn it back over.
As club president, let me echo, thank you for being here, and thank you for your honesty and open responses to all the questions presented to you.
Thank you.
I did mention earlier, thank you, media, for being here and doing what you do to inform the public that we have. That's a monumental task nowadays, and we appreciate it. Is there anything else before the club today? Okay, we'll adjourn.